This is Joy Foster, founder of TechPixies, and I'm here with the amazing Lynne Artus. Thank you so much, Lynne, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been really excited just to sit and have a chat with you ever since the first time I saw you. It's about a year ago on one of the free trainings. So
yeah, we were just discussing that it was about a year ago.
Yep.
So, gosh, you've been through a huge change in a year.
A lot of huge changes, absolutely.
Would you say that your changes have been transformational? Because this is our transformational series.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's so much about transformation that has happened to me I'd say maybe two big ways, and are still happening right now as we speak. And I think the first one that I went through was obviously the sort of professional transformation, and that started with me about a year ago, as we said, thinking, gosh, I would really want to upskill myself. I want to do something different, and feel a little bit more confident with my skills professionally, so that I can go out and find a job that is going to work for me and my family. Because at that time I was in a job as a TA in a special needs school, which I was absolutely thriving in. I loved it. I was so passionate about it. I loved these children with all of my heart. I loved working in schools with any children at all. I literally was thriving at that job, but it was draining me from my family, basically. And my husband had his role was evolving as well. And whilst he was runs his own business from home, this new role that he was sort of evolving through was taking him away from home a lot more, and that was putting on a lot more additional pressures in the home, and it was such a difficult decision for me to come to terms with, and not maybe a decision, but the thought process in my head when I started thinking, I think I need to change my career path, was so difficult because I loved what I was doing so much. And I loved working with children, and I loved being in education. And it was well and truly up until the day that I served my last day at my school was where I thought I was supposed to be. But I knew something had to change, because it had to change for myself and it had to change for my family. And I thought, if I can do something to better my skills, and then the world is kind of my oyster, and I can make things work for me, and I can get a job where I can work from home, and I can be there for my kids more, and I can take my kids to school. Because as lovely as working in schools are, and as well as it does work for parents and moms, being term time only, you still have to be there every morning and every afternoon until schools close, and you can't be there for your own kids. And it's a sacrifice that you kind of had to make for a while, but I think for me it was definitely the right time to think about that change and think about doing something for myself, because I was also just constantly giving and giving and giving to others, and it just became time to do something for myself. So last year, as I was on holiday, it is when I started having all of these thoughts and contemplating these things, and that's when I decided. I wrote a load of goals down in a little book somewhere. I still have them, and one of them was look into social media training, because I thought, oh, I quite like social media. I'm on it all the time. Why don't I get paid probably twice as much as I was for doing something that I could really enjoy and work from home? I just wrote that down. I said, look into training of some sort. And through the powers of social media, I saw the TechPixies name recommended probably in a thread somewhere. I thought, oh, I'll look that up. And I think you were just about to start your free training the next day. So it was a very timely sort of thing. And that's where my journey began.
Yeah, I actually think I remember that, because we're in a couple groups and we get recommended, which is a lot of fun. And then you end up having a little conversation, and then it's nice when people actually come over and do the free training. So were we doing the free training when you went through it?
I think I literally found out about it maybe one day into it. So I was like a day or two behind.
Yeah.
So like we said, that timing was just absolutely crucial and probably meant to be. in a way. So yeah. I remember sort of watching, like I said, I watched your video for the first time, and I instantly sort of felt connected to you, and that's kind of what kept me going through it, and kept me curious. So
Well, I think that's actually one of the things we teach in the second video, in the second training, which is all about strategy in 2020, which involves video, because who knew we were going to live in this world where the only way we could see other people was through the camera lens, and actually getting people to have the courage to actually use video is so important. Now, what I love about what you've done, though, and I think this is really important for people who think, oh, Lynne, she ditched her TA career in, special needs. That's not what you did at all. It was very heartfelt. It was a hard decision to make, but you have just pivoted within the education sector. You're still working in education. You're just working as an assistant to the editor of an educational resource website. So tell us about that role, and tell us how you're able to take your TA skills and apply that to the resource creating, and what an incredible opportunity it is for you to help, thousands of families. Like, it's not, what you were doing before was amazing because you were working one-on-one with children, and really making an impact that way. But now the impact you're making is even more because you've gone into educational resources.
mm, absolutely, and making an impact, and having a job that has has such meaning to it means an awful lot to me. It's one of the main sort of things I look for in a role, is to be doing something that I know is helping somebody else. That's always just in me. It's just what I want to do. It's what I want to feel. I can't just sit in an office, and do accounts or something like that, which is
I
nothing
don't know
wrong.
many tech pixies who can, quite frankly. I think.
You can connect these things to all sorts of purposes, really, can't you? But so having that meaningfulness in working in schools and as a TA is hugely important to me, and I absolutely have been able to carry that over to this role. And now I am tapping into my more sort of creative skills and my new technology skills that I've earned to create and design and write content for all of these worksheets that now people are now using for homeschooling.
And if you didn't have that experience as a TA, you wouldn't be able to do this work.
Not
That's
at
the
all,
part that
not
I
at
think
all.
is so incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And my experience goes from early years through to primary to and the combination of the special needs and everything. And I bring so many of those amazing, important skills that TAs and teachers have. And right now, our TAs and our teachers are our absolute heroes at the moment. And I just absolutely have all the respect for them in the world, because they're just being so brave and so amazing at this moment in time. And yeah, so these skills that you gain as a TA and or being in education in whatever capacity are so important, and I've taken away so much from them, to be able to use in this new role. And it's just working brilliantly for me, because I do feel that I'm contributing to a bigger cause still, but I'm also using these skills that I have now, and my confidence in myself is just shot through the roof, really. And as a result, I've already been rewarded with a pay rise.
What? That's so awesome.
I know. I just think I just feel so incredibly lucky to have found this role and to be doing it, and still making that impact, and still supporting teachers and parents and carers with these worksheets. And I think I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks into some of the first few things that got posted on the website that I created, they were in the top 5 downloads as well. So I must be doing something right, and I feel like I'm in my element and I'm thriving again. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful for that.
Well, there's a couple things in that sentence which are awesome. Okay, first of all, pay rise. Everyone needs to give you a little, congratulations. You're not the first person who said that. Actually, we've had a few people who, they'll go in and they'll get started with a job, and then, within a couple months they'll get a pay rise because they can see the value of the work that you're doing. The other thing too that I love about what you said is that it had some of the highest downloads. And I love the analytical hat you've got on there, right? That idea that actually you care about the statistics, you care about the analytics, you can see, you can leverage the analytics to work out what's working, what's not working, do more of what's working, do less of what's not working, and cater to your community. So I think that's really incredible. Also that the way that you framed that is that it's not just that, you're enjoying it, you're doing great, but you actually have statistical proof that the stuff that you're doing is doing really well. So I love that so much.
My editor showed me that. She took a screenshot of the downloads from the website and showed me. So I just thought you might be interested in seeing this today, and it was a real boost, more than the pay rise really, because I just love what I'm doing, so it's great.
And I think the other thing I want to talk about is how you got the job, because I think when people go through the program and they go looking for jobs, and well, first thing we say, and this is that you need to find your ideal employer avatar. You really need to sit down and say, what kind of a job do I want? Who do I want to work for? Now we have some people that go and set up their own businesses, but we have quite a few people who also go back to work. So when you are applying for a job, I mean, this was a big deal, because I remember when you posted in the group that you were, applying for it, and then you got the interview, and then, oh my gosh, you got the job. And then it was like, but it was not, I mean, there were a lot of applicants for this job. So tell us a little bit about the process.
Yeah, sure. So there is a lot of competition for these jobs. I found, because I was applying for a variety of comparable roles, I would say at the time, and sometimes I would get through to the first stage, and I was thrilled with that even, and then maybe I didn't make it beyond that role, but that stage, but I didn't really let it bother me that much, because I knew sort of the right thing would come along. I think the key thing about the process for me was, well, I just happened to find it flicking through social media.
Oh, interesting. So you found the job through looking on social media.
Yes, I did. So, and I clicked the link, and I read on, and I read the job description, and I thought, oh, okay, this sounds just like me. I at that point, I had no idea it would be as me as it was. But I thought, but the key is what I'm trying to say is that I had this sort of newfound confidence in me, and the backup of my skills and my abilities to be able to rewrite my CV with that, and with those details in them, and with those skills in them, and with TechPixies behind me, and sort of represent myself with a new CV, with a new me, with a new this, or whatever, new information about myself, with a confidence that I probably hadn't had in the past. It was maybe just a bit more boring, really, but I upped my game in that area. And whenever I write a cover letter as well, I am very specific to the role that's just been advertised, and I'll totally start from scratch and rewrite a new cover letter, really aiming for what I think they're looking for. And I must have nailed it, because within a couple of hours of applying, she'd gotten back to me and said, oh, can we have a Skype chat tomorrow? And then that turned into, okay, let's take a day or two and sleep on it for a bit. But we both kind of knew, it was right. And then she's like, oh, can you start next week? Whoa.
Wow.
Ready for that, but yeah, I thought, you know what, why not try this? Let's see what happens. It might not work out, and if it doesn't, it's not the right thing for me, and if it does, then it just might be.
There's so much in there that you talked about, though, and I think one is mirroring the cover letter and the CV to match the requirements that they're asking in the job, which is very important, using those keywords that they use as well, so that you're speaking the language that they've put onto the job description. I mean, that's really important. I also think what is really interesting is you had the confidence in your skills. You felt, you knew the skills, you'd been testing them out, you've been trying them out. So, you didn't feel like an imposter anymore, because you'd gone through the course, you had moved. In fact, I think when we checked your results, when you took the quiz, you were a spectator, and then now you're obviously a superstar. So you actually are the perfect example of someone who went from a spectator to a superstar. But a huge part of that, like you said, is what's in between the two ears, what you believe about yourself. And that's why I personally think that the life coaching is really important. Did you find that the life coaching element of the course impacted your ability to feel confident in your skills?
Oh, 100%. Definitely. The coaching, the life coaching was just probably one of the most impactful parts of the course for me as well, because you're in a group of like-minded women kind of going through the same things, whether you have a business yourself, or whether you're totally recreating yourself for a new career, or you're just returning to work, or whatever. You are in a group in these sessions with like-minded people sharing the same thoughts that you might actually be afraid to share, but somebody else said it and you say, oh my gosh, yes, that's me too, that's me too. And that's part of this whole community that is just so amazing, and helpful, and and motivating and supportive. And it's just been so fantastic. The coaches are obviously incredible and just really make you feel at ease, and happy to talk. And you've probably gathered, I am not one to be in front of a camera. I'm not one to put myself out there. I like to be behind the scenes. I like to sit and observe. That's who I am. But this, look, I've already done an interview, filming in an interview with you. I'm here today. And something has changed in me, has transformed in me, where I now raise my hand for those things. And before I wouldn't, you couldn't pay me to do it.
Oh
Honestly.
my gosh, are you serious? Because
I'm
you're such
serious.
a natural at it.
I'm serious. I know it's way deep down in me. I know it is, but it's like, it's taken 46 years to come out. And part of that has been down to this whole experience. And definitely the coaching. I've just enjoyed it. And that's why I signed up to Progression as well, because, I don't want it to stop, really.
Don't want it to end.
Yeah,
I know we do say once a tech pixie, always a tech pixie, but we do have, just amazing women who are very active in the community and very connected. And also, once you've gone through the first level of coaching, you want the next level of coaching,
mhm,
right? So, it's the progression membership is a lot more neuro coaching and a lot more deep coaching, and it's going deeper on the stuff that you touched on the surface in the first part. I want to read off I don't know if you know the new 12 coaching topics that we're going through, but I thought I'd read through them and
yeah,
maybe
sure.
one of them will resonate with you and maybe you can talk through one of those with me. So we've got perfectionism, we've got overwhelm, we've got imposter syndrome, focus and intention, values, goal setting, compare and despair, time management and boundaries, fear of judgment, and cognitive bias, which is worrying that everyone's paying attention to you when they're not really, dealing with negative feedback, taking action, and reflection, resilience and change and rejection. How, any of what were of all this stuff that I just said, was there anything that came out that you really worked through when you were on the program?
Yeah, quite a few of them actually. Probably one that jumps out, is imposter syndrome, definitely, because uh, at the beginning, I didn't really know what I was going to be. I thought I was going to turn into a social media manager, and that's kind of, what got me to the course in the first place. I was curious about it. I wanted to learn about it to see if it was something I wanted to do, but I didn't think that I could call myself one at all. I'm not even sure I can now, but that's not because of imposter syndrome. Back to when I started, though, um, I think that, I was going through this course having to sort of practice these things on about social media and various skills and this and that. And as much as I didn't know what I was going to be or what I was going to end up doing as a job, um, as I went through that process of sort of feeling imposter syndrome and then sort of dealing with it and then sort of evolving into what I am now, somewhere in the middle of the course, I stopped worrying about sort of the future and what I was going to be, because, and that was probably one of the first times in my life that I've ever really done that. because I sit there and don't we all think about the future, and we all worry about the next day and how's this going to pan out, and all these thoughts start muddling up your mind. But for the first time, I felt really at ease with not being anything, because I probably had just left my job at that point, and was kind of in that middle. And I didn't know, I didn't have my next job yet. But I felt this sort of, I don't know, I just felt at ease with not knowing what was coming next for the first time in my life. So
that's really powerful.
It really did help me deal with that imposter syndrome, and going through the stages of it, and then sort of saying goodbye to it. Really, it is quite powerful.
What you're talking about is so important. If you are not worried about the future, we talk about this a lot, like creating an unwanted, undesired future that doesn't exist yet. If you focus all your attention on that, you're taking away from creating a future that you do want, and a future that is, you know, fulfilling and stimulating. And so it's almost like you free yourself from a future that doesn't exist, and you invest in a future that does exist, and know that, you know, the right thing will come along at the right time, and that every decision you've made up until that point has been the right decision. And, you know, you look at your TA job, and if you didn't have that TA job, there's no way you could be doing the work you're doing now, you know. And I think everything builds on each other, right? So people don't necessarily realize that. And I mean, I had 2 businesses before I had this one, and this has been by far, you know, the most fulfilling, stimulating, you know, career I've ever had. You know, I've changed careers 10 times. I've, you know, returned to work twice. I've set up 3 businesses, and, you know, but every single experience leads to the bigger picture. As long as you're open to the bigger picture being something exciting and, you know, and thrilling, and, you know, that resonates with you, and not having this future that you don't want in your head all the time. Because when you're living in a place that doesn't exist, that you don't want, that's when you create something you don't want. So you have to constantly, you know, and actually, I love what you said, how it just shifted for you, because what happens is it does take time. In fact, in neurocoaching, which is, you know, I'm getting the certification at the moment, we know it takes 67 days for a full shift in your thought process. Because basically, when you're writing, when you have a thing that you say to yourself all the time, it just gets deeper and deeper embedded in your thought process, embedded in your brain, and you don't even realize that you're doing it. And that's what's, you know, that's effectively your reptile brain. It's the part of you that keeps you safe. And so it's designed to do that. It's designed to, like, make sure that you're safe and protected, and make sure that it warns you of any fear. But you have to really use the prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain, to reshape that by putting in new thoughts. And you have to repeat those new thoughts over and over again. And we know that it takes 9 times, 1 negative comment, it takes 9 positive comments to actually basically counteract that. And so what happens is, the other thing too, and I'm sure you know this, a negative comment is really easy. I mean, it is so easy to say something negative, to think something negative. It is very hard to think something positive. And again, that's all of your body and brain trying to keep you safe, trying, you know, go back to those days when we had to survive, you know, and then a lot of people still have to survive now. But the problem is that to get beyond survival mode and into thriving mode, something has to shift. And what we say is that supportive, positive, authentic relationships with women who are keen to learn and want to be empowered, you know, the idea there is that that supportive, positive, authentic relationship is getting you on a daily basis, is getting you closer and closer to that shift. And that's where we start to see the shift around 6 weeks for a lot of people. That's where it starts to happen. And then as they go into the second half of the program, that's where you really see a change. But 6 weeks, it's a great place where people start to make the shift. And if they feel it and they embrace it, that's where after 90 days, it's like, yep, they've made that full transformation. Yeah. And I love that you've made that transformation. It's so incredible to watch, because I love watching students come in, and we have enough touch points with students. We know who they are and what they're doing. Very often know your names and what you're up to in your life. And so it's not like it's a place where we've got so many people we don't know who people are. If you're active in the community, we know who you are.
Oh, it's just fantastic. And I know I started out in cohort 17, and then I took a pause in between because my husband lost his dad around the end of the year last year. So I took a bit of a pause, which was great to be able to do that. And then I jumped back on to cohort 19, I think. And they were both amazing. But I've got my accountability partner, Aguda, who's out there, I think, and some of the other ladies in 17. They know who they are. We're still cheering each other on, and still in touch and still working through things together and everything. And it's just fantastic. Another thing I wanted to say, you were talking about your career. You've changed career 10 different times, and something else I can kind of relate to that. Before, probably when I first started and before the course, I I've changed a lot of different jobs here and there. Before I had kids and before we moved out sort of to the country, I was a senior level PA working in London, and it's the same sort of career back in America as well, doing PA stuff. And that's how I knew I had the skills back then, but I knew I needed to bring them into the current times. And a lot of other different jobs before that when I first started out in Special Olympics and recreational therapies and sports training in that sort of sense as well. So I've moved around a bit. My CV was long and it had to be sort of condensed or whatever. And my average sort of time span in a role was probably not much longer than 3 years. And traditionally, I think that's, you think, oh my gosh, that's going to be frowned upon. And I used to think that, and I used to think, oh gosh, how can I, sort of make that look good or whatever. But you know what? I don't really care about that anymore because you know what? Maybe that's just me. And
Yeah.
so what? And look at all of the experiences I've brought from each of those roles, as you say you did as well, and all the things that you've learned from each one. And I don't think that anymore. I don't worry about that. That's how it looks on my CV, or what are employers going to think about that. And I don't really think they care that much these days anymore. I think it's sort of a more of an old-fashioned way of thinking. Yeah, it's great, to be somewhere for 9 years, but that just doesn't happen anymore, I don't think, these days. But anyway,
Well,
another mindset shift change for me was that, you know what, maybe that's just me. Who cares? I don't anymore. So there we go.
I love that so much. I hope that resonates with a lot of people because I think people care too much about what other people think, and we all get caught in it for sure. But it's about, are you the right person for the role? Is the role the right place for you? I'm a huge advocate of, it's not just, don't just take any job because, that's, and often what you'll find is people have come into the program, they've probably done that at one point in their life where they've just taken any job just to have a job. But what you realize is that's not a way to be fulfilled and satisfied. You want to find a company that really cares about you and your progression, and that wants to value your experience from all the different backgrounds, and that wants to help you expand and mold and shape as a human and also as a employee.
Mm.
And it's so important. And those companies exist. They 100% exist. There's like no doubt at all whatsoever that amazing companies who are supportive of their employees and want to help them progress, they do exist. You have to find them. And one of the best pieces of advice I got from I was on a panel talking about setting up a business, ironically, and the person before me was coming on to talk about finding your dream career. So I was there to talk about, launching your dream business, and she was there to talk about finding your dream career. And it was such a great combination. And then we also had this woman who had been through hell and back and had launched a huge multi-million pound company. So it was really, really interesting to have all those different panel or stories.
Mm-hmm.
But the gal who was talking about her dream career, this is what she said. She said that she got really clear on what she wanted. She wanted to be a CEO of a charity. That's what that in her head, that's like 100% what she wanted. And she cared about developing countries. And, so that was her starting point. But what she did was on LinkedIn, she reached out to about 80 people who were involved in charities she was interested in, and just said, can I have a cup of coffee. Now, these days you'd end up doing like a virtual cup of coffee.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, I think a lot of people almost prefer it not to have to go into London and then come back. And, I mean, it saves me 6 hours of travel almost every week right now. But so she did these virtual coffees with 80 people. And then, of course, in having these conversations, she let them know, look, if anything comes, if you hear of anything, or or if you guys are looking for someone, this is what I'm interested in. So she then ended up, I think she got, she put in 40 applications or something like that. She got invited to 10 interviews, and she got offered 4 jobs. And the reason I think this is significant is for 2 reasons. One, she had 80 conversations, and she had 40 applications.
Mm.
So she really went broad, and she didn't just settle on, okay, that looks good, I'm going to apply for it. For her, she knew what she really wanted. But the other thing about that story was that she was interviewing them. Like, at the end of the day, she was going to be the CEO. She was going to be responsible for the company. So she was going to interview the company that she wanted to work for, that she wanted to lead. And she got it. And it's an incredible company. They do microfinancing in developing countries to help women set up businesses. And, she was really passionate about it, and very successful at it too. But I think that there's so many different approaches here. What I love about your story is you learned how to use social media. You found the job through social media, you applied, it made sense, it worked, it felt right, and you got it. And then look, you got this amazing job. And not only that, but you got a pay rise, and you're able to work flexibly around your family, and you're not now tied into the school hours that you were tied into before, which, were tricky. And also the amount of additional education you would have had to progress in that career, was something that wasn't tenable for you. So what would you say to someone who is on the fence? Because, at the time of this recording, our September cohort, the doors for enrollment close at 12 o'clock today. Now, of course, if you're listening to the podcast, you've missed the September enrollment, but there will be an October enrollment. So definitely make sure you get on our waiting list, which is techpixies.com/waitlist. But what would you say to someone who's on the fence about joining TechPixies? They might be worried it's too expensive. They might be worried that they don't want to go into social media management. They might be worried that it's going to be that their skills are too outdated. They won't be able to keep up. What would you say to those things?
Oh, funny you should ask that, because on my way home from school run this morning, I got talking to a lady who has a boy in my son's class, but we don't really chat very much. And so we just got walking home together at the same time, and she said, "Oh, what are you doing now these days?" And I told her a bit about my job. "Oh, how did you do that? Did you do something to improve yourself or whatever?" And I said, "Actually, yeah, I did." And I told her, I got to tell her all about the joys of TechPixies, and she said, "Oh, does it cost a lot of money?" And I said, "Well, it's an investment. It's an investment in yourself. And it's something that I wanted to do for myself." And I would say to anybody that's on the fence, this is not just about, gaining new tech skills or anything. This is an investment in yourself, because it's such a journey. And I'm still on a big part of that journey. And I still see some massive transformations happening in me on a personal level, not just the professional stuff. I've kind of felt like I've done that, and I want to keep learning more skills, of course. But now I feel this sort of bubbling inside of me of lots of little personal things that are starting to transform as well. And I want to be able to tick those boxes off. And this is the thing that got me here, is being on this TechPixies journey. So it's an investment that's worth every penny that you have in yourself, in so many more ways than social media or technology. It's just been fantastic. And I keep saying, I don't want it to end.
Well, you don't have to have it end. We love it. And you're such a valuable member of our community. I think it's so important. Yeah, Lynne, thanks for your time. That was lovely, just to get to go a bit deeper on your story, because it's such an important story. And I think for a lot of people, particularly who are TAs, we want to fully respect what they do and the incredible work and gift that they give to our children, because man, oh man, we need them. but we also want to respect the fact that people have options in life, and that changing careers is an option for people if that's what they want to do, and if they're ready to do that. And we're here for them if they want to do that with us.
Yep, it's just about making it work for you, whatever that is. Go and do it.
Yeah, and if if your family life is suffering because of the job you're doing, that it hurts you and the family. And actually, realistically, let's talk about that. It hurts your job too. Because if you're not fully able to, if you're upset about not being able to be fully present at home, then the stress is kind of there at work too. So and I can imagine if you do feel like you need to have more time with your family, and then you're looking after other people's children, it can get to a point where you're kind of like, I'm in a place where I need to look after my children too sometimes. So,
and yourself, you need to, reserve stores inside for yourself, and that just wasn't happening either. So yeah.
Yeah, well, an empty cup cannot pour into another cup. You have to have a full cup, and you have to take time out for yourself to fill up that cup. You really do, because you're responsible for taking care of yourself, and by doing that, you are able to take care of others. But if you can't take care of yourself, it's very hard to take care of others.
True. Yeah. Brilliant.
All right. Well, we'll let you go. Get back to being a productive educational resource assistant to the editor, and thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.